Ambassador Cole Mitchell stood in the grand throne room of the Sylvari matriarchy, trying to maintain diplomatic composure while internally questioning every life choice that led him here. 6 months as human ambassador to the Sylvari. 6 grueling months of Byzantine protocols, delicate peace maintenance, and trying not to accidentally restart the war that ended 3 years ago. The Sylvari were matriarchal, with distinctive pointed ears and elaborate social hierarchy, where status was everything and physical contact outside one's circle was deeply inappropriate. Queen Vera Solen presided with absolute authority over a court where hundreds of nobles and diplomats gathered for formal audiences. Today's audience was particularly tense. Cole was presenting humanity's proposal for expanded trade routes. A proposal facing significant opposition from Sylvari nobles, who saw humans as upstart newcomers with dangerous ideas about equality. The throne room was calculated power. Every position, every gesture, every word weighted with political meaning. Cole stood in the supplicant's position, aware of hundreds of eyes watching, waiting for him to fail. Behind the throne, almost invisible in her prescribed position, stood Princess Lyssa, the queen's 13-year-old daughter. Cole had met her briefly during his 6 months here, a serious, quiet child who watched everything with intelligent eyes and never spoke during formal events. The protocols were clear. Royal children were seen but not heard, present but not engaged, training for eventual power but not yet wielding it. As Cole presented his proposal, he noticed Lyssa watching him with unusual intensity. Then, in the middle of his carefully rehearsed speech about mutual economic benefit, something unprecedented happened. Lyssa suddenly broke from her formal position, ran across the throne room, court protocols shattering with each step, and threw her arms around Cole in a fierce embrace. The entire palace fell silent. Not polite silence of attention, but shocked, horrified silence of witnessing something that simply didn't happen. Royal children don't break protocol. They especially don't make unauthorized physical contact with foreign diplomats. Cole froze, arms awkwardly raised, not knowing whether returning the hug would be appropriate or offensive, acutely aware that his response could have diplomatic consequences he couldn't predict. Queen Vera rose from her throne, her expression unreadable but her posture radiating controlled fury or shock. Cole couldn't tell which. And Lyssa, still holding onto Cole, whispered something too quiet for anyone else to hear. "Thank you for saving me." The throne room remained frozen as Queen Vera descended with deliberate, measured steps that somehow conveyed both royal authority and barely contained emotion. Cole's mind raced through 6 months of interactions, trying to understand what Lyssa meant. He'd never been alone with the princess, had barely exchanged more than formal greetings. The queen reached them. "Princess Lyssa, you will explain this breach of protocol." Immediately. Lyssa finally released Cole, stepping back but not retreating to her proper position. Her voice, rarely heard in public, carried across the silent throne room. "Ambassador Mitchell saved my life 2 months ago, and I was forbidden from acknowledging it publicly until I couldn't stay silent anymore." The court erupted in whispers. Cole's confusion must have shown because Vera's expression shifted to something between anger and resignation. She dismissed the formal audience, clearing the throne room except her inner circle and Cole, who was firmly instructed to remain. Once the room emptied, Vera demanded the full story. Lyssa explained, and Cole's memory clicked into place. 2 months ago, he'd been walking through the palace gardens during his limited free time. He'd noticed a young Sylvari girl. He hadn't realized it was the princess, leaning over the ornamental pond, reaching for something. She'd lost her balance and fallen in. The pond wasn't deep, but Cole later learned young Sylvari can't swim instinctively. It's a learned skill. Lyssa had panicked. Cole had simply reacted, pulling her out, making sure she was breathing properly, walking her back toward the palace before discreetly leaving when he saw royal guards approaching. He'd thought nothing of it, just helping a kid who'd fallen in water. He hadn't realized who she was until weeks later during a formal event. By then, mentioning it seemed more problematic than remaining silent. Lyssa had been forbidden by her security detail from acknowledging the incident publicly. Admitting she'd breached protocols and been saved by a foreign diplomat would have been scandalous. But watching Cole struggle through diplomatic audiences, seeing him treated with subtle disdain by nobles who considered humans inferior, had apparently become too much for her conscience. Vera listened with an expression cycling through shock, fury at her security detail, and something that might be grudging respect. She turned to Cole. "You saved my daughter's life and said nothing, not even to gain political advantage." Cole shrugged, uncomfortable with attention. She was a kid who fell in water. Helping seemed more important than protocol, and mentioning it later felt like leveraging a child's mistake for political gain, which seemed pretty awful. The Queen studied him for a long moment, then did something unprecedented. She bowed slightly, a gesture of respect from superior to equal, shocking everyone present. "Ambassador Mitchell, my daughter's life is worth more than any political protocol. You have my gratitude and my trust, which very few beings in this galaxy can claim." She straightened. However, this situation is now extremely complicated. The aftermath became a political firestorm. Within hours, news spread. The princess publicly broke protocol to acknowledge debt to the human ambassador. Interpretations varied wildly, scandalous breach, touching gratitude, calculated political move. Cole found himself simultaneously elevated and scrutinized. Vera summoned Cole to a private meeting, actually private, just the two of them in her study, extraordinarily unusual. "You need to understand the position this has created," she said, more relaxed here. "In Sylvari culture, life debts are serious. Lyssa publicly acknowledging you saved her has bound her to you in ways transcending normal diplomacy. You are now effectively part of our family's honor network." Cole tried to process this. "I didn't save her for political gain." "I know, that's why the debt carries weight. Actions without agenda are rare in royal circles." Vera poured them both drinks, the Queen serving a guest personally, another protocol breach. "But there are complications. Factions opposed to peace with humanity see you as dangerous precisely because you have different values. Your actions challenge their entire worldview. Because it suggests humans might actually be decent. Because it suggests humans act on principle rather than calculation, which makes you unpredictable." She paused. "There will be those who see Lyssa's attachment as vulnerability to exploit or threat to eliminate. Are you saying she's in danger because of this?" "I'm saying you both are. Life debts can be complicated. Some might see eliminating you as a way to humble my daughter. Others might leverage Lyssa's attachment against me." She met his eyes. "I'm asking if you're prepared for that." Cole thought about Lyssa, serious, intelligent, burdened by protocols, who'd broken every rule to publicly thank him because staying silent violated her sense of what was right. "I didn't ask for this, but I'm not going to hide from it. If there's a target on my back because I pulled a kid out of water, that says more about your court than about me." Vera smiled slightly. "That's very human thinking, and probably exactly what we need." Over following weeks, Cole's role shifted. He became a bridge between human and Sylvari perspectives, someone trusted by the Queen and genuinely liked by the princess. Lyssa started appearing at diplomatic functions more frequently, often near Cole, sending clear signals about where royal favor lay. Their interactions were proper, always observed, always appropriate, but there was genuine warmth. Cole became something between diplomatic ally and protective older brother to a girl navigating crushing royal expectations. She asked about human culture, about how humans handle hierarchies, about whether human children have more freedom. He answered honestly, not making humanity sound perfect, but explaining different approaches to power and responsibility. Then came the assassination attempt. During a formal garden reception, someone slipped poison into Cole's drink, not lethal, but enough to make him violently ill and create scandal around the human ambassador being too weak to handle Sylvari beverages, designed to humiliate, to undermine his position and Lyssa's judgment. Except Lyssa noticed something wrong before Cole did. She'd been watching him carefully since declaring her debt, and she caught the subtle discoloration indicating tampering. Without hesitation, she knocked the glass from his hand, crystal shattering on garden stones. The poisoner, a minor noble with anti-human ties, panicked and revealed himself through his reaction. The incident cemented several things. Lyssa's attachment was genuine protective instinct. The threats were real. And Cole's presence had become a flashpoint for larger tensions about human-Sylvari relations and Sylvari society's direction. The assassination attempt forced conflict into the open. Vera moved decisively, rooting out the conspiracy and making clear that attacks on the human ambassador were attacks on the crown itself. But the deeper issue remained. Cole had become a symbol of dangerous human influence to some, possibility of genuine alliance to others, and to Lyssa, someone who saw her as person rather than political piece. The queen summoned both Cole and Lyssa. She explained that life debts create formal obligations that need addressing. They could be discharged ceremonially, freeing both parties, or formally recognized, creating permanent bonds. Lyssa, Vera said carefully, if you wish to discharge this debt ceremonially, freeing Ambassador Mitchell from obligation, I will support that choice. It would simplify matters politically. Lyssa spoke with unusual firmness. No, I declared the debt publicly because staying silent felt like betrayal. Discharging it now would admit I was wrong. I wasn't wrong. She looked at Cole. You saved me without expecting anything. You kept my mistake private. You've been kind without being patronizing. And you've faced threats because I refuse to hide the truth. I won't dishonor that. Cole was moved and troubled by the burden. I don't want you carrying obligation to me. I know. That's exactly why the debt matters. Lyssa turned to her mother. Ambassador Mitchell could have leveraged my mistake. He didn't. That integrity is rare. If acknowledging it creates complications, those complications are worth having. Vera looked between her determined daughter and uncomfortable ambassador, then decided. Very well, we will formally recognize the life debt and incorporate Ambassador Mitchell into our family's honor network. Unprecedented for a non-Sylvari, but these are unprecedented times. The formal ceremony happened 3 days later. Cole was formally recognized as one who holds royal trust, bound by honor to the princess and crown. Not adoption or romance, but uniquely Sylvari acknowledgement. He acted with honor toward royalty, creating ongoing relationship based on mutual respect. The political implications were enormous. Anti-human faction lost ground. Peace gained deeper foundation. Proof humans and Sylvari could form genuine bonds beyond strategy. But the most significant change was personal. Cole's role transformed. Lyssa gained someone outside suffocating protocols who treated her as person first. Vera found an unexpected ally helping her daughter navigate expectations while bringing different perspectives to court. Months later, in the palace gardens where everything began, Cole and Lyssa walked together, properly chaperoned but relaxed. Do you regret it? She asked. Saving me that day, if you'd known the complications? Cole considered. I regret that decency became complicated. I regret you faced pressure for choosing honesty. But no, I don't regret pulling you out of that pond. Good, because I don't regret running across that throne room, even though it was probably the least diplomatic thing I could have done. Probably, Cole agreed, but it was also the most honest, and sometimes honesty is more important than diplomacy. They stood at the pond's edge where it all started. My mother says you're teaching me dangerous human ideas, Lyssa said, about questioning authority and choosing principles over protocols. Is that true? Completely, and I appreciate it. She grinned. Though I promised to question authority more diplomatically than I did in the throne room, Cole laughed. Probably wise. One protocol-shattering embrace per relationship is enough. The palace had fallen silent that day, but from that silence came conversation, understanding, connection that formal diplomacy alone couldn't achieve. Sometimes breaking protocol is exactly what's needed to build something real. Sometimes a child's honest gratitude is worth more than 1,000 carefully negotiated treaties. Cole saved a girl from drowning. That girl, by refusing to hide truth, saved the possibility of genuine understanding. Together, they proved honor and decency transcend species, protocols, and political calculations. The embrace that shocked a palace became foundation for new diplomacy, built on character rather than just strategy, genuine connection rather than just negotiated interest. And that made all the silence, scrutiny, and complications worth bearing.